The calm man who leaves is often misunderstood. People assume he gave up, that he was weak, that he didn't care enough to fight. But the truth is very different. He didn't leave because he lacked strength. He left because he finally understood where his strength should no longer be spent. Calmness is often mistaken for weakness because it does not announce itself loudly. It does not raise its voice, demand attention, or try to dominate a situation. In a world that equates strength with aggression and control with intensity, calmness looks passive to those who don't understand it. But calmness is not the absence of power, it is the mastery of it. It is what happens when a person has learned to regulate their emotions instead of being ruled by them. Emotional control at its highest level means you are no longer at the mercy of external triggers. Other people's words, actions, or disrespect do not dictate your inner state. This doesn't mean you feel nothing. It means you feel everything, yet you choose how and when to respond. That choice is where true strength lives. Anyone can react in anger, defend their ego, or lash out when provoked. It takes far more discipline to pause, to breathe, and to decide that your peace is more valuable than proving a point. Calmness is built through self-awareness. A calm person understands their emotional patterns, their wounds, and their triggers. They know which situations drain them and which ones deserve their energy. Because of this awareness, they don't need to perform strength. They don't need to intimidate, argue, or seek validation. Their composure comes from clarity, not suppression. They are not bottling emotions inside. They have already processed them. What makes calmness powerful is that it removes emotional leverage from others. When someone cannot provoke you, they cannot control you. When insults fail to get a reaction, manipulation loses its grip. Calmness disrupts unhealthy dynamics because it refuses to play the expected role. It exposes immaturity without confrontation and sets boundaries without explanation. This is why emotionally reactive people often feel unsettled around calm individuals. They cannot read them, control them, or predict them. There is also courage in calmness. Staying composed in moments of tension requires inner security. It requires trusting yourself enough to know that you don't need to prove your worth through emotional displays. Calm people are not afraid of silence. They are not threatened by misunderstanding. They understand that not every battle deserves their energy, and not every disrespect requires a response. At its highest level, emotional control is not about appearing unbothered. It is about being grounded. It is the ability to stay aligned with your values even when emotions surge. Calmness allows a person to make decisions from clarity rather than impulse. It protects long-term dignity over short-term relief. While others react and regret, the calm individual observes, chooses, and moves forward without carrying emotional damage. In the end, calmness is strength refined. It is power without noise, confidence without arrogance, and control without force. Those who mistake it for weakness reveal more about their own emotional instability than about the calm person before them. A man who leaves quietly has already understood the situation deeply, long before his absence becomes noticeable. His silence is not confusion, it is clarity. He has watched patterns repeat, listened to words that didn't match actions, and felt the gradual erosion of respect. While others argue, demand explanations, or try to fix what keeps breaking, he observes. Understanding does not come from one incident. It comes from accumulation. And once understanding settles, noise feels unnecessary. Quiet departure is the result of emotional processing, not avoidance. This man has already asked himself the hard questions. He has examined his role, his expectations, and his limits. He knows what he tolerated, what he compromised, and what continued to cost him his peace. By the time he decides to leave, he is no longer angry. Anger belongs to those who still hope things will change. He has moved past hope into acceptance. What separates him from someone who storms out is emotional maturity. Loud exits are fueled by the need to be seen, heard, or validated. Quiet exits come from the realization that understanding may never be mutual. He recognizes that explaining himself one more time will not suddenly create empathy where there is none. Silence becomes a boundary, not a punishment. This man also understands power dynamics. He knows that constant availability, emotional labor, and forgiveness without accountability diminish his value. Staying would mean reinforcing a pattern where his presence is taken for granted. Leaving quietly reclaims that value without confrontation. He removes access instead of demanding appreciation. Deep understanding brings restraint. He does not seek revenge or closure through arguments. He knows that clarity does not always come from conversation. Sometimes it comes from distance. Walking away calmly is his way of honoring the truth he has already accepted, that continuing would require betraying himself. There is also compassion in his quietness. He does not leave to hurt or teach a lesson. He leaves because staying would require him to abandon his self-respect. He understands that people act according to their capacity, not his worth. That insight frees him from resentment. He does not need to be remembered as dramatic or bitter. He is content with being consistent. When a man leaves quietly, it often takes time for others to realize what has happened. His absence is subtle but heavy. There is no argument to revisit, no door left open for emotional chaos, only space. And in that space, understanding often arrives too late. On the other side, his quiet departure reflects inner resolution. He has made peace with the outcome before it ever shows on the surface. That is why he doesn't look back, explain, or linger. He already knows why he left. Power shifts the moment someone stops reacting and starts choosing themselves, because reaction is rooted in dependence, while self-choice is rooted in freedom. When a person is constantly reacting, their emotions are being controlled by external behavior. Other people's moods, words, and actions dictate how they feel, how they respond, and even how they see themselves. In that state, power does not belong to them. It belongs to whoever can trigger them the fastest. Reaction is automatic. It comes from unhealed wounds, unmet needs, and the desire to be understood or validated. When someone reacts, they are still invested in being seen, heard, or approved of. Even anger is a form of attachment. It means the situation still has access to their nervous system. This is why people who react often feel exhausted. They are constantly giving emotional energy to things that drain them. Choosing yourself, on the other hand, is a conscious act. It requires awareness, restraint, and honesty. It means asking, does this deserve my energy? Instead of, how do I defend myself? The moment someone makes that shift, the dynamic changes. They are no longer playing the role assigned to them. They stop explaining, overgiving, and overreacting. They stop negotiating their boundaries for comfort or approval. When a person chooses themselves, they stop participating in emotional chaos. They don't need to win arguments because they are no longer trying to prove their worth. They don't need to correct every misunderstanding because they trust that clarity doesn't always come from explanation. This withdrawal of emotional engagement is often misinterpreted as coldness or ego. But in reality, it is self-respect taking shape. Power shifts because reaction keeps people predictable. If someone knows how to upset you, they know how to control you. The moment you stop reacting, that control dissolves. The silence, the calm, the lack of emotional access creates uncertainty on the other side. Suddenly, the usual tactics don't work. The arguments fall flat. The manipulation loses momentum. What remains is space, and space forces reflection. Choosing yourself also changes how you see others. You stop personalizing behavior that was never about you. You understand that people act from their limitations, not your value. This awareness prevents you from internalizing disrespect. Instead of asking why someone treated you a certain way, you ask whether that environment still aligns with who you are becoming. This shift is not loud or dramatic. It is subtle but irreversible. It shows in how you walk away without resentment, how you maintain dignity without explanation, and how you protect your peace without guilt. You no longer chase closure because you have already closed the door within yourself. True power is not dominance over others. It is sovereignty over your own emotions. When someone stops reacting and starts choosing themselves, they take their power back quietly, firmly, and without needing permission. Silence after disrespect is often misunderstood as avoidance, fear, or emotional withdrawal, but in reality, it is one of the clearest expressions of self-respect. Avoidance comes from confusion and weakness. Silence after disrespect comes from clarity. It is the moment a person realizes that explaining themselves again will not create understanding, and reacting will only drain their dignity. Silence is not the absence of feeling. It is the refusal to engage where respect no longer exists. When someone disrespects you, they cross an invisible boundary. How you respond determines whether that boundary becomes permanent or flexible. Arguing, defending, or over-explaining often teaches the other person that your self-respect is negotiable. Silence teaches something different. It communicates that access to you is a privilege, not a right. It says without words that you will not participate in environments where your value is diminished. Silence after disrespect is rooted in emotional awareness. A self-respecting person understands that not every behavior deserves a response. Some actions are loud enough on their own. Responding emotionally can actually dilute the seriousness of the offense, turning it into a debate rather than a boundary. Silence allows the weight of the behavior to remain intact. It forces the other person to sit with what they said or did without the comfort of your reaction. This kind of silence requires strength. It goes against the instinct to defend yourself, to correct the narrative, or to demand accountability immediately. It means trusting that your worth does not need to be proven through confrontation. It also means accepting that some people are committed to misunderstanding you because it benefits them. Engaging with them only keeps you trapped in a cycle where disrespect is repeated and normalized. Silence is also a form of emotional detachment. It is the decision to protect your inner world instead of sacrificing it for temporary relief. When you stop responding to disrespect, you reclaim your energy. You stop carrying conversations in your head. You stop replaying arguments you wish you had won. That mental quiet is not avoidance. It is peace earned through discernment. For those who rely on provoking reactions, silence feels unsettling. It removes their sense of control. They may label you cold, distant, or immature because they are uncomfortable with losing access to your emotions. But self-respect is not about managing others' perceptions. It is about staying aligned with yourself. Silence after disrespect does not mean you are afraid to speak. It means you know when speaking is no longer effective. It is the calm understanding that your presence, your energy, and your time are valuable, and not everyone deserves continued access to them. Walking away calmly creates delayed realization and regret in others because it removes the noise that usually distracts them from their own behavior. When someone leaves in anger, arguments continue in memory. Words are replayed, blame is shifted, and the focus stays on the conflict itself. But when a person walks away calmly, there is no emotional chaos to hide behind. What remains is silence, and silence forces reflection. Calm departure does not feel dramatic in the moment. It often feels underwhelming, even forgettable. There is no fight, no begging, no last attempt to be understood. That is why the realization is delayed. The other person assumes the calm individual will return, forgive, or adjust as they always have. They mistake composure for tolerance. They think the absence is temporary because there was no visible breaking point. Time is what changes everything. As days pass, the absence becomes noticeable. The emotional labor that once went unseen is suddenly missing. The stability, patience, and presence that were taken for granted are no longer available. This is when understanding begins to surface, not through explanation, but through comparison. They start to feel the difference between having someone who chose peace and being left with the consequences of their own behavior. Regret does not come from being told what went wrong. It comes from experiencing the loss of what once softened their life. Calm departure removes the opportunity for emotional bargaining. There is no argument to revisit, no anger to soothe, no door left open for manipulation. The calm person has already closed that door internally. That finality is what makes the regret deeper. Walking away calmly also preserves dignity. There is no shame to justify, no harsh words to hold on to. This makes it harder for others to paint themselves as the victim. Without drama, the narrative shifts inward. The question changes from "why did they leave?" to "why did I allow this to happen?" That question arrives slowly, but when it does, it lingers. The calm individual does not leave to teach a lesson, yet the lesson is unavoidable. Absence becomes the teacher. It highlights what was ignored, dismissed, or undervalued. People rarely miss what they believe will always be there. Calm departure removes that illusion. Regret grows in the space where effort once existed. When someone realizes that respect was optional until it wasn't, the weight of that loss becomes heavy. By the time understanding fully forms, the calm person has already moved forward, no longer waiting to be chosen, appreciated, or understood. Detachment exposes who depended on chaos to feel important because chaos creates relevance for those who do not know how to exist in calm. When emotions are constantly stirred, when conflict is frequent, and when reactions are guaranteed, certain people feel seen and powerful. Chaos gives them identity. It makes them feel necessary, influential, and alive. Detachment quietly removes that stage, and without it, their importance collapses. When someone detaches, they stop feeding emotional loops. They no longer argue, explain, defend, or react on cue. This shift can feel threatening to those who relied on emotional intensity to maintain control or attention. Suddenly, the tools they used, provocation, drama, guilt, or confusion, no longer work. What once created connection now creates distance, and that distance reveals uncomfortable truths. Detachment is not coldness, it is clarity. It is the decision to stop participating in dynamics that thrive on imbalance. For people who depend on chaos, calm feels like rejection. They are accustomed to relationships where emotions run high because those emotions guarantee engagement. Without that engagement, they feel invisible. Detachment exposes this dependency because it removes the emotional currency they relied on. This is why detached individuals are often labeled as uncaring or distant. The label is a defense mechanism. It protects the ego of those who cannot tolerate losing emotional control over someone else. When chaos no longer gets a reaction, frustration replaces power. The mask slips. Their need for validation becomes obvious. Detachment also reveals how little substance some connections had beyond emotional turbulence. When the drama stops, there is often nothing left to talk about, nothing to bond over, nothing to sustain interaction. Calm exposes the lack of depth that chaos once disguised. It shows who valued you for your presence and who valued you for your reactions. Choosing detachment requires emotional maturity. It means accepting that some people are not invested in growth or peace, only in stimulation. Detaching from them is not abandonment, it is self-preservation. It allows space for healthier connections where calm is not mistaken for boredom and stability is not seen as weakness. In the absence of chaos, those who depended on it must confront themselves. Some grow, others escalate. Either way, detachment has done its work. It has revealed who needed disorder to feel significant and who could stand confidently without it. The man who doesn't beg removes emotional leverage from the other person because begging is not about love or connection. It is about fear of loss. When a man begs, he hands over his power. He communicates that his emotional stability depends on someone else's approval, presence, or decision. This creates an imbalance where one person holds control and the other waits to be chosen. The moment begging enters a dynamic, respect quietly exits. Emotional leverage exists when one person knows they can influence the other's behavior through withdrawal, silence, or threat of leaving. Begging confirms that leverage. It tells the other person that they are needed more than they need you. A man who refuses to beg disrupts this structure. He accepts the possibility of loss instead of trying to negotiate his worth. That acceptance is what restores balance. Not begging does not mean he feels less. It means he understands the cost of self-abandonment. He knows that pleading for love, respect, or basic consideration sets a precedent, one where his needs will always come second. By choosing dignity over desperation, he draws a clear line. Connection must be mutual, not coerced. When a man doesn't beg, he forces clarity. There is no emotional bargaining, no dramatic speeches, no promises made under pressure. This often feels unsettling to the other person because they lose the reassurance that they are in control. Without begging, there is no emotional reward for withholding affection or respect. The usual push and pull dynamic collapses. This kind of restraint requires inner security. It means trusting that if someone truly values you, they will not need to be convinced. It also means accepting that walking away may be the outcome. The man who doesn't beg has already decided that being alone is better than being diminished. That decision shifts the power completely. Removing emotional leverage also protects long-term self-worth. Begging may provide temporary closeness, but it often leads to lasting resentment and shame. The man who stays grounded avoids that internal damage. He leaves with his self-respect intact, regardless of the outcome. In refusing to beg, he communicates something stronger than words. That love cannot exist without choice, and respect cannot be requested. It must be offered freely. Absence speaks louder than arguments ever could because arguments keep people emotionally connected, while absence removes access altogether. When two people argue, there is still engagement, still energy being exchanged, still a desire to be understood or to win. Even conflict can feel like connection. Absence, however, ends that exchange. It does not debate, defend, or justify. It simply removes presence, and that removal carries a weight words cannot match. Arguments often give people something to push against. They create noise that allows blame, denial, and justification to thrive. In arguments, people listen to respond, not to understand. Each side clings to their version of the truth, and the real issue gets buried under emotion. Absence strips away that distraction. Without constant interaction, there is no one to argue with, no one to provoke, and no immediate outlet for emotional discharge. What remains is reflection. When someone is present, their value can be taken for granted. Familiarity dulls appreciation. Absence reverses that. It creates contrast. The emotional labor, patience, consistency, and support that once blended into the background suddenly become noticeable by their absence. This realization rarely happens during heated conversations. It happens in silence, over time, when routines change and something essential is missing. Absence also preserves dignity. Arguments often lead to saying things that cannot be taken back. Words spoken in anger linger, creating wounds that complicate healing. Choosing absence avoids that damage. It allows a person to leave without demeaning themselves or the other. The message is not delivered through insults or ultimatums, but through a clear boundary. Access has ended. What makes absence powerful is its finality. Arguments leave room for continuation, another discussion, another chance, another explanation. Absence closes that loop. It signals that the issue has moved beyond discussion. This can be unsettling for those who rely on constant engagement to feel secure or important. Without arguments to revisit, they are left alone with their thoughts and their role in the outcome. Absence also shifts the narrative. In arguments, people can position themselves as victims or heroes. In absence, those roles lose meaning. There is no audience, no immediate feedback. The focus turns inward. Questions arise that arguments never answered. What did I overlook? What did I assume would never change? What did I lose? Choosing absence is not about punishment. It is about clarity. It is the understanding that some truths are not heard when spoken, but are felt when something is gone. Absence communicates boundaries, self-respect, and final understanding without a single raised voice. In the end, the quiet man does not win by overpowering others, but by mastering himself. His calm, his silence, his refusal to beg, and his willingness to walk away are not acts of weakness. They are evidence of deep understanding and emotional strength. By choosing detachment over chaos and dignity over reaction, he removes emotional leverage, exposes unhealthy dynamics, and reclaims his self-respect. His absence becomes the message, his calm becomes the boundary, and his departure becomes the turning point. While others realize the value of what was lost too late, he moves forward lighter, clearer, and no longer willing to trade his peace for conditional connection.